So once again, thank you all for joining. In today's webinar, we are going to be covering what's new in our latest release. We're also going to be providing an exclusive first look at PenPal AI. Today's presenters, myself, Matt Alexander. I'm the Director of Communications here at Practice Perfect. And we also have Steve Pressment. He is the President and Founder of Practice Perfect EMR. As ever, we have a couple housekeeping items we'd like to address before we get started. Microphones have been muted and your webcam will not be required. The presentation will run for approximately 45 minutes, but we're going to leave 15 minutes at the end for a Q&A. If you do have any questions before, during, after this, feel free to email us. You can also type those questions in the chat. We have a few awesome folks from Practice Perfect, like Carrie, here to join us, who's going to be helping answer those questions in the chat, and then we'll also answer them again during the Q&A at the end. The webinar is being recorded, and it will be posted on our YouTube channel afterwards. We'll make sure that you receive a link to the webinar. So if you have to leave early, if you have someone in your office who wasn't able to attend, we'll make sure that you get a hold of that link so you can share it with them. Now, a few things on the agenda. What are we going to be covering today? In our latest release, we have the new custom document locking feature. We have some new reports and report modifications. We have multiple progress notes per patient/provider on the same date of service. That's one that's been in demand for a little while. We have a few updates to the web app. We have a few updates to the client portal. We also have automated phone calls and emails in Wired Client. And last but certainly not least, we are going to be giving a first look at PenPal AI. Now, these aren't all going to happen in this order necessarily, so if you don't see something right away, that's okay. We're going to get to it. But without any further ado, we will launch into Practice Perfect. I'm going to show you a couple options related to the wired client.
And Matt, if I can interrupt for one moment.
Yep.
So these are all on build, anything that's released 646 and above. We are going to be releasing, I think this weekend, 648. That's our newest release. So these things that you're seeing, everything you're seeing today, more than likely you do not have right now, and you would need to schedule an update to leverage these changes. So these are all on any version that is 646 and above. So again, just so you know that if you went into your Practice Perfect right now, you're not going to see most of this stuff. So again, updates, no charge, do them yourself, schedule them through support. We're happy to keep everybody as up to date as you can be. Matt, back to you.
Awesome. So in 646, a couple of the settings here. In the Wired Client tab, we have these three new options. So we can text a client when a new document is uploaded from the clinic. What does that mean? In the client portal, we have a documents exchange section where clinics can make clinical documents available to patients. They can download them on their own device. If this option is checked, we can automatically send a text to the client once a document has been uploaded to the client portal. You do have to be using Wired Client for these three features here as well. Conversely, we can text a provider when the new document has been uploaded by the client, and we can text the provider when a patient has booked an appointment online. We're also now looking at the preferred language in the client's profile in Practice Perfect. With regards to Wired Client, if someone's preferred language is Spanish, French, something other than English, we can automatically send them a version of the message template in their preferred language. That's set up in Wired Client. Their language would be carried over here in the general information section. And then if we have the corresponding message template and the text filled out in either French or Spanish, it will send them this version. The same goes for the events. If it's an email, we'll send them the Spanish version of the template as an email. We can do voice calls as well in Wired Client, also new. We can test these features out. So if we want to see what the text looks like, hear what the voice call sounds like, or see the email, that can all be tested before it actually starts going out to your patients. Now you might be thinking, these are some cool new options. How do I find out about them? I would encourage you to sign up for the Practice Perfect newsletter. So we do monthly newsletters if you're not aware. Once you come on the website, this little box is going to pop up. Just throw your email in there and you won't miss anything new about Practice Perfect. We also post these newsletters to our blog. So if you aren't on the email list, you can always come in here. You can check them out, see all the new things going on at Practice Perfect. And one of the big things we include in every single newsletter is a link to our release notes. So this is very handy for staying up to date with everything happening at Practice Perfect, what's included in the new release. Maybe there's a feature you've been waiting for. Maybe there's a bug you've been waiting to get squashed. You can find out about it in these very detailed release notes. But with that, I'm going to pass it over to Steve. Steve is going to show us some of the new reports and the different features in Practice Perfect. So, Steve, take it away.
Very good. Okay, thanks, Matt. Let me share my screen here. Again, welcome everybody. Thanks for taking the time today. And again, I encourage you to schedule updates. I encourage you to go visit the release site that Matt had just shown you. It's also available at www.practiceperfect.emr.com/releases. You can see that there as well. So again, we'd like to keep you up to date. One little thing right off the bat, I am in the middle of a cold. I'm in between, if you hear me clearing my throat, blowing my nose, I'm suffering from a NyQuil hangover. Hopefully my voice won't go out before the end of this, but we'll see how we can do. Now, in no particular order, I'm going to go through basically every major change. There's been hundreds of minor changes, but sort of the bigger changes since the last time we did this, which would have been probably for at least 640, so several months ago. And let me just close that down right over there. And in no particular order, and these are again all on 646 and above. You can see what version you're on right up top here. And again, don't be hesitant to install your updates or schedule an update as well. First of all, again, in no particular order, down the side here, we've had several requests for things like the appointments being booked online, the payments being made online, instead of having to go up into operations or into file or and sort of deal with things there, or actions, web payments, web appointments. We've added them to the sidebar just for quicker access. So that's very straightforward. If you want more information about what pending forms is or pending appointments or pending payments, just let us know. Pending forms is incoming forms, intake forms, that kind of thing, which we do handle. Patients booking appointments online, patients paying their bills online are handled through here. Next, I want to spend some time on some changes we made to some of the reporting. Some of these are brand new reports and some of these are changes to existing reports. We're going to start with the revenue report. Excuse me. Revenue reporting. We've added some export options onto this report. I'm just going to go back to the beginning of 2024 here and little export button. For those of you that don't know what the export button does on most of our reports, is this takes the report and exports it into a raw Excel format. Now, why would you want anything exported into a raw Excel format? Because if we don't do something, if there's a certain report you can't get from us, a certain bit of information that we're not providing in sort of a usable format, hopefully there's not too much of that, by exporting these raw formats, you can then, if you're a bit of an Excel expert, you can then basically manipulate the data any way you want if you're doing pivot tables or any kind of business intelligence, that sort of thing. So we've added in here a number of new fields, things like when the payer, how much the payers paid to date, the clients paid to date, how much the payers adjusted to date, how much the clients adjusted to date, last payer payment date, last client payment date. So a number of fields have been added in here just for your use if you are doing any kind of business intelligence. Also, the incident description's been added into the export field as well for those of you that are using the exported revenue reports. The account statements now have the option. Not sure why Norton keeps throwing it up, but Norton doesn't like me today. The account statements now have an option to show. I'll just grab Max here to show modifiers. So up until now, we were showing the fee codes. You can now also say, I want to see the modifiers. Modifiers for our Canadian accounts, modifiers don't mean anything to you. This is an American thing. A modifier is kind of an extension on a fee code. So again, if you do want to show the modifiers after the fee codes, excuse me, on the statements by clicking that little option. The KXs, the GPs will now be shown. A number of people are asking for that, especially people are using the statements to submit charges to insurance companies. Something we've changed with all of the reports involving fee code summaries. This may be something you've noticed over time, maybe not. Whenever we look at anything with a fee code summary, operations summary, daily reconciliation, revenue report, revenue trend report, that sort of thing, at the very end of these reports, as you probably know, we have a summary. Fee code description, dollar amount. So how many 97001s did I do? How many, massage 30 minutes did I do over the period of time? So these summaries have been in place for a long time. However, up until now, if different descriptions were used, they were appearing on a separate line on the summary. So you didn't actually know how many 97001s you did. You would have to add together potentially two or three different lines if they had different descriptions. Doesn't affect a lot of people, but it does affect some people. Now we're lumping it together based purely on the fee code. So even if you have multiple descriptions for 97001 or multiple descriptions for any fee code, they'll now be lumped together by the fee code themselves on all of these reports. It's kind of been a long-standing issue that we've closed up. Um, moving on to compensation report. We're finding more and more the compensation report, just going back a step, the compensation report is used, for those that don't know, to record or to report on compensation for your providers. If you're paying your therapist based on number of units they do, number of time, the amount of time they've spent, number of visits they've seen, is it a percentage that you're paying them? That's what the compensation report is for. And again, if that's of interest to you and you're not using it, contact support to tell you how to set this thing up, because there is some setup involved in it. But more and more what we're doing, and again, you can run compensation based on when things happened, when things were paid. Well, more and more what we're finding is clinics are saying, I only want to pay my clinicians once they actually sign the note. If they're not completing their daily notes, then I don't want to, I don't want to pay them. The wording here is a little off. That's being changed in this release coming up. But for example, if I want to see only compensation for notes that were completed and signed during a particular time period, sorry, I can do that. This is for the services that occurred in that time period. So you can now run this report based not on when the service happened, based not on when the service was paid, but based on when the note was signed. Same report, but it's only going to report on compensation for notes that were signed during that particular time frame. This seems to be a model that some people are moving to, so we did have to add that in as well. We've added two new reports into the system. These will be of use to some of you, not all of you necessarily. We have something called the patient appointment calendar report. I'll just run over here, patient appointment calendar. What this is, I'm going to go back to, let's say, January this year. I'm going to run it for one particular client. What this is a calendar. Yeah, you can text people and you can email people the schedules, that kind of thing. Where are we here? If I could type, it would help a lot. What this is is a calendar format that you can basically print out and give to the patient. So it's basically when all of their appointments are for the upcoming month or months, the date, the time, who they're with. So if you do have patients that have a lot of appointments, especially pediatric clinics, where the kid might be coming a couple times per day or many times per week, you can now provide kind of a printed, very, very presentable format that's easy for the patient to understand. So again, where is that new report? It is under reports, scheduling, appointment calendar report. Another new report we've added, and we're actually making some changes to it for the release that we're coming out this weekend, because a couple things about it I didn't like that didn't make sense that we are changing right away, is something called the goal analysis report. So under reports, task and clinical, goal analysis, a lot of people have been asking us, I need a report that shows how we're doing with our goals. Are we meeting our goals? Are we not meeting our goals? Do I have a particular clinician not meeting their goals? Do we have an issue with certain kinds of goals that we're offering? So we have this new report called the Goal Analysis Report. A goal analysis report, we can start it at any particular time frame. I'm going to say I want to start it from maybe January. Um, I can say I want to see a weekly version, which means I just want to see how they did maybe January 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, or I want to see a monthly version, meaning I want to see it sort of over a greater period of time. We can run it for all clients, active clients, discharge clients, by provider, by division, by location, one patient, all patients. So I'm just going to run it for one patient. So what this report gives you, and I'll describe the changes we are making to this report as well, is it shows for that particular patient monthly, starting in January, February, March, April, May, June, up until August. We look at the individual goals they were assigned. Are they short-term or long-term? The target, and then each individual score at that interval. Now, this is not a great example here because this patient's been kind of consistent all along. In this case, there was a 10% increase. We are adding in an initial column, so you'll be able to see initial to current as well, not just from the 1st of January, and then whether or not the goal was met. So basically, each goal for the patient over time, how we're doing. Are we up? Are we down? Nice little presentation of it here. Was the goal met? Was the goal not get? This is something that you could actually give the patient if they had asked for it. It is presentable. At the very end, we do a summary. The summary is all of the goals that you've reported on. And again, keep in mind, this could be for all of your patients, how many times you used that goal, the average increase and decrease in percentage, and how many times we met that goal. So we can see we're kind of down on these two goals. We're up on this goal. These are flat. Again, not a lot of data in this example. And again, we're making a couple changes to this. But this is a great new report to show how everybody is doing with their goals, which is something again we've been asked to work on for quite a long time. Moving on, where are we here? Moving on, something we added a little while ago, and I don't know if people are aware of this or not, is there's a new version of the activities by service screen. There is something called the enhanced view. The enhanced view shows quantity, units, minutes, visits, charges, billing, adjustments are in its own column. That's really kind of a big thing people have been asking for. Again, more of an American thing than a Canadian thing. But this is an extended version of the screen. Why haven't we just turned the screen on for everybody? Because we still have a lot of users with old, small monitors that refuse to kind of increase their resolution, and it won't fit on those monitors. If we just turned it on, it would be a big jumble. So how do you turn this on if you're not already using it? Under settings, customize accounting, and there's an option here called enhanced activity by service listing. You turn it off, it's the old format. You turn it on, it's the new format. And this is based on the user. So it's not global. You can have some people that want it turned on and some that want it turned off. Anything blue, by the way, just so you know, in any of the settings is a user setting, not a global setting. So we'll turn it back on again. So again, that's called enhanced activities by service view. Been in there for a while, since 641, as a matter of fact. But I just wanted to bring that one up again. Moving on to some changes to the scheduler. One of the functions we have on the scheduler is something called update incident status. Many of you may not know about. I'm right clicking on Carol and update incident status. This is where you can put in things like their next doctor visit, their next eval due date, without having to go out into the incident and make the actual change. We've added assessment date here now. People were asking for that as well. So now you can change their next doctor visit, their next eval due date, or their last assessment date right from the scheduler with the right click. This has now also been added to the web version. It wasn't on the web version before at all. It is now. So if we go into the web version of Practice Perfect, which I believe I have open here, it's been added here as well. The now where are we here? Update instance status. So that's now added in there as well. While we're in the web version, again, constant challenge. We're always trying to bring the web version up to equal the desktop version, kind of like chasing our tails a little bit, just because we do have a lot of changes that we're making, so we have to make them in both cases here. On the web version, there's a couple other things that we're missing that we have now added in. We now have, in no particular order here, the ability to copy and paste appointments, which was not in the web version up until very, very recently, and it was in the desktop version. We now have appointment detail, which was not as up to date as it was in the desktop version. Now it's available in the web version as well. You can jump right to the client now by hitting, where are we here? I think it might just be the enter key. Let me bear with me for a moment here. Client detail, where are we here? Client detail. So you can jump right to the client now, right from the web as well, without having to kind of jump through some hoops. And the last thing that was missing here is the ability to apply color schemes. So right from here, you can now change the color scheme of a particular appointment as well. So those are always available in the desktop version, but they weren't available in the web version. So those are on this version as well. Moving on to our next topic, which is the client portal. Client portal always changing. We get a lot of feedback on the client portal. Can we make the flow better? Can we make things more intuitive? And we're listening to those, and we're trying to fix those as they come in. To be pretty candid, there's no pleasing everybody. Everyone wants something a little bit different from the patient experience here. So we're trying to take the best of what people are asking for and incorporate it. So a couple of things we've changed. First of all, the wording at the bottom, people were finding confusing. We've also made this much better on mobile. So if it's on the phone now, it should look a lot better. It should fit on the phone screen without issue. Click here to become a new patient or schedule as a guest. So this is new. Up until now, one of the complaints was, as a patient, as a potential patient, you had to register before you could actually book an appointment. And that was a problem because people don't want to have to give all their information before they can see if a time is available. So we added this thing here called schedule as a guest. I'm brand new. I've never been to the practice before. I can now click on this. I can say which location I want to go to if you do have multiple locations. I want to see Heather. She's who I've been sent to, looking for a 40-minute massage. The time comes up. The patient can pick the time as they've done before, but it's going to say, okay, now that you know that 8 o'clock is available on Tuesday, you can't book without signing up. Which we think is perfectly fair. They can't book without putting in their information. But now they don't have to sign up before they decide to check you out. So that should not scare people away or deter people from booking with you, which I think before it may very well have. They didn't want to give their information to be able to book. The other thing that I want to point out here is on the side, it used to be you could only have kind of the clinic address. You couldn't have a little ad or hours or multiple locations. This is something that you can now put on the side panel here. We have to set this for you for now. It's something we do. So if you are using the portal and if you do want, you have, I think, up to 8 or 9 lines. If you do want something special to appear here on the left-hand side, contact support, let them know you do need to be on the new version, and we can put whatever you want over here. In this case, there's 2 locations, hours of operation. So this is something brand new as well. Whatever you have there now sticks. It's not going to disappear, but you can replace it with these new things. One other thing I want to talk about that's a little more detailed. Oh, a couple things. Before we get into that, One other issue we had prior was the financial screen. On the financial screen, as many of you may know, you can now pay, patients can pay their bills online if you sign up for that. But when you clicked on payments, so as a patient, you can see all of your charges, you can see your unpaid charges. You can click on payments. But up until this update, it was only showing the payments that were made online. It wasn't showing all the payments that the patient made. So if a patient actually paid their bill in the clinic, it wasn't showing up on here. Now it is. That was an oversight. Now it is. They can generate a receipt right from here. We're actually going to be doing more work with these receipts to make them include the services that were performed as well. So we're doing work with the receipts so clients can sort of self-serve and print their receipts as well. That's in the works. But again, now what we're doing is we are showing, let me just kind of close all these little extras here. We are showing all of the payments that were made, not just the ones made online. Let me just close this here for a moment as well. Didn't realize that was open. Okay, one thing I want to talk about is something called lead time. Lead time was something that was not working properly, and it is set up here under scheduler, schedule providers, which is where you're putting in the hours of all of your therapists, um, which you should all be familiar with. We have something called booking lead time. Now, what that is, that's for the web, obviously, web booking lead time for the portal. What that is, it's a little hard to describe. What that is how much lead time the clinic needs in order for a patient to book an appointment. And lead time is how much time are you open before a patient can book an appointment. Let me give you an example. It's 10 o'clock at night. The clinic opens at 9 o'clock in the morning, and someone at 10 o'clock at night decides to book an appointment for 9 o'clock in the morning. That's not going to fly necessarily. You need to know beforehand that they're coming in. Maybe the therapist wasn't going to come in because they didn't have anybody booked until 10 o'clock. So we need a way to say, look, patients who book primarily after hours, this is where it usually comes into play, cannot just book the first thing in the morning appointment. I want them I want there to be a 120-minute or 2 hour kind of buffer. So the earliest that the patient can book is maybe 11 in the morning, whatever it happens to be. So this lead time prevents them from booking an appointment right at the beginning of the day. If you want a 2 hour buffer, 3 hour buffer, that's where it goes. It doesn't affect the desktop booking or the manual booking. It just affects the client portal. This has been there for a long time, but it wasn't working properly. Now it is. So again, with this particular update, so kind of a key new function as well that people have been asking for. What are we going to get into next? Next, we are going to get into the clinical documentation, and we have quite a lot to cover here as well. First thing we're going to take a look at is a signature, a client signature. I'm not sure if you are all aware that this is on here. We're getting more and more jurisdictions that do want the ability to show a client signing off on a note as well. Therapist does their daily note, nothing changes, business as usual. But you can now hand your device, your tablet, whatever, over to the client. They can drag their finger over it and sign the note. Now that's been in there for quite a while. A little check mark appears. That's not new. What's new is when you print the note, you now have the option of showing that client signature, and it will show the date and time that the client signed the note. That is new. Up until now, it was not showing the timestamp of the signature. So that's something that people have been asking for as well, just to give some more validity to the client signature. Next thing we want to talk about when it comes to documentation. Again, I'm jumping around a little bit here because these are very different functions. One of the issues that was reported was when I import a document into the system, whether it's scanned, imported, coming from the client, doesn't matter. Why does it have to be attached to an incident? If they've sent in an intake form with their name and address information that really applies to all incidents, why do I have to import it twice into each incident? You don't anymore. When you bring a new document into the system, you don't have to specify an incident. You can actually say, there is no incident associated with this document. And what that means, if you don't put any incident, it will appear on all incidents. So for example, I have a document here called no incident, silly name, but good for the example. No incident exists under this incident, but no incident also exists under this incident. So no, we didn't scan it in twice, but it appears on both incidents because it doesn't have any incident, if that makes sense. Again, how do we do it? You just blank out the name of the incident when you're importing it, and it will appear automatically on all incidents. Again, something that's been being asked for a long time. Again, jumping around a little bit, another issue that people have been reporting, not many, but a couple, more on the web app, is during the entry of goals. We were getting some complaints that people were, I don't know, closing their device without hitting OK. So they're going through all the work of putting in their goals, and it just wasn't being stored because it wasn't clicking. They weren't clicking OK. Not really sure how that happens. We have to adhere to some conventions here with Windows. It doesn't know when you're done, so that's why we had the OK button. But we can understand, especially if someone's using a tablet, the tablet turns off. They close the lid of their desktop, their laptop without saving anything. So I've added a save button here that hopefully helps with that. And this is on the web as well. So if you're in the middle of entering your goals and, and you've done a lot of work and you don't want to close it down, you can hit the save button and it just saves what you've done and lets you continue. So hopefully that does mitigate some of the issues people might be having on some of the web-based devices where it's not saving the goals. Yes, you still have to click the save button. Maybe eventually we'll make it an auto save. I'm not sure. Some people don't want to save it. They want to, cancel it and then go back in and put it in another way or a different time. So in any case, we've added the save button both here and on the desktop to hopefully help with that particular problem that may be coming up. Now, a bigger change we're finding with some clinics, and let me, who do we have here? David Walker here. With some clinics, primarily pediatric clinics, where kids are coming in perhaps 2 or 3 times a day, especially when we're looking at behavioral kids, kids with autism. They might actually be coming in several times per day to see the same therapist, morning, midday, afternoon. Up until now, you could only do one note per day per therapist. You could do different therapists was no problem, but if I have David Walker coming in 3 times to see Herb on the same day, you could only do one note per day per therapist. And we've now added a new option. It's here under documentation called enable multiple notes per provider per client per day added from the scheduler. Catchy name, I know. So basically just enable multiple daily notes per day per provider per client. What that means is if I do have the patient coming in 3 times a day, whenever I add the note for that particular patient, it will be treated as 3 separate notes. This note says one thing. We'll do the second one. It says something else altogether, number 2. And the third one, again, something else altogether, number 3. Each one of these can also have its own charges. So now we are attaching the charge directly to the note. So each one of these notes does have their own charge. You're not going to see, sort of, 3 notes with all charges on the 3 notes. So they do maintain their own individual charges as well. When you are printing out, you can see we have 3 notes in a day here. When you are printing out the notes, if you do print them out, you do have a new option. We can have only the services related to this note, which means we're only going to see the charge related to that note, or we can say we want to see all the services that were rendered regardless. So we're going to see all 3 charges for the day. Some people want that. Some people just want the individual charge. But again, now you can do 3 individual notes, 3 individual charges. Questions come up about goals. The goals aren't maintained per note. The goals are this patient doesn't have any goals, bad example, but the goals are universal. When you have goals for an incident, the goals are for the incident. They're not just for each note. You can just fill in the goals for each note. Nothing stopping you from doing that, but the goals are universal. We don't keep different goals for different notes. It is for the day. The goals are date based. If we find that's an issue, we'll look at something about that. Just not quite sure what we would do. Now, a big one that we have added in here, how's my timing here? We're close, very good. Um, is we had a bit of a flaw in the system that some of you were aware of and some of you may not have been. And that flaw had to do with custom documents. Now, again, what are custom documents? Customized documents are documents that you can design yourself or have us do. If you don't like what we have built in, you can design your own evals, that sort of thing. Whole separate topic. If there's any question about how to do those, by all means, contact support. But one of the issues that we had was if you then went and changed the format of a customized document, if I went in and changed the fields, changed the description, changed the title, it was retroactively changing any existing document you have. If you changed it from assessment to assessment and eval, then if you go and reprint one of these old documents for a patient, it would have shown up, assessment and eval. It would show the new format, which is problematic. We really should be keeping a snapshot um, of that document, excuse me, at the time it was created. So what we've done for that is we've added a new option in here as well, called, where are we here? Um, where's our locking here? Enable document locking once completed and signed. Enable document locking once completed and signed. We are not turning it on by default, and I'll tell you why in a moment, why we are not turning that on by default. You can go and turn it on, obviously, once you get the update. But I'll get back to that in a moment here. What that means is when you do complete and sign a document, which I'm going to do right here, it's going to ask you at this point in time, okay, what do you want to show on the document? You want to show services from the usual things. These come up whenever you typically print the document, same sort of options, and we're going to lock the document. So what this does now is internally is it locks the document. It means that we have now taken an image of that printed document and stored it. There's really nothing different that you need to know about that. I mean, if I reprint the document, the only thing is that when you go and reprint it, these options are locked because that's how you stored it. So if I preview the document, it looks the same, nothing different, but it's now locked. It means that if I now go and change the format of that custom document, it's not going to affect the locked document. That document is stored the way it is. The only downside of doing this, the only downside in locking documents is when you do go to reprint it, you do lose the ability to change these options because it's a locked document. If you need to change these options, you are going to have to incomplete the document and then recomplete it again with the new options. That's the only way. That's pretty well the only downside that we have seen with these things. So again, I can certainly come into this document and I can say it's now completed and unsigned. Unsigned this document could potentially change things. We'll talk about that in a moment. But now I can go and make changes and then complete it and sign it again. It'll take a new snapshot. Again, when you complete and unsign, or when you unsign the document or incomplete the document, and I'm back in here again, it will revert to whatever the new format of that document is. So if you did make a change to this particular document, when you unsign it, it's going to become the new version of the document with whatever changes you've made, and then that snapshot is stored again. So a little bit complex. We do recommend that people turn that option on. The reason that we don't make this by default is because not everybody is going to like it, and we don't want to force people into using it without an informed choice. The other reason we don't make all the old documents retroactively adhere to this is because we don't know what options you would have used when locking it. So we can't just go back and say lock everything because we have no idea what options you'd like. So again, this is a confusing one. We do have a video on this. I think Matt's going to send the link to the video out with the after the session with the copy of the video. So it will be, and it's going to be in the release notes as well. So again, there will be a document explaining this. It's a bit complicated, but now you can lock documents where the format will not change. Now, on to sort of our, I guess, our highlight of the day. which is the new AI that we are doing. And I'm going to talk a little bit about first of all, what is AI? For those of you that don't know, AI, artificial intelligence, that is the ability for the computer to think. Basically, you're going to talk, and it's going to take what you're talking about and do something with it. It's going to either populate a document, hopefully one day get into billing, record payments. It's going to basically listen to you and say, "Oh, I know what the guy wanted to do," and populate it accordingly. So right now, what we're doing is we're using AI to populate both the daily notes and your evaluations, and it works fine with the custom evaluations. We have this working on the web version right now. The desktop version is imminent, like literally a couple days away as well. It works the same way. Now, a bit about AI. AI is a new thing, artificial intelligence. It's new to us. This is going to evolve. It's going to get smarter. It's going to get faster. It's going to get better. We're going to use it for different things. Again, maybe we'll get into billing. So you're seeing this in its infancy. This really, really, really is a brand new thing. I want to talk, actually, let me show you a bit about it. Then we'll talk about how we're rolling this thing out. So I'm going to go into Gregory's documents here. One thing I do want to also say is sometimes when we're doing this on Zoom, because we're using a microphone, Zoom takes over the microphone and it doesn't work properly just because, and that's just a unique situation with Zoom. So hopefully this will behave for us today. I'm going to do a new speech language eval, excuse me, for our patient Gregory here. And we're going to pick a provider. And you're going to see this thing PenPal AI over here. And we're going to talk about how this gets turned on, who can use it, what we're doing in a couple of moments here. But I'm going to begin to record an eval for Gregory. So I'm going to just read off a very, very brief speech language eval. I'm not a clinical person, so this is going to be pretty simple. Little microphone button. Gregory's pregnancy was easy. The delivery of the baby was regular, a healthy boy, no irregularities out of the womb. Gregory's gestational age was 9 months. The main issue is the child is not speaking. The child is currently 3 years of age. The child experiences resistance to cuddling and has difficulty eating by himself. He also cannot maintain eye contact. Child was diagnosed with asthma 1 month after birth. This is the child's first visit to our facility. The child was hospitalized once in the last 12 months due to a high fever. It was a virus. The child has also demonstrated separation anxiety when the mother is not present. The child is prone to ear infections, for which he takes antibiotics. Initially, we like to see Gregory 3 times a week, conduct some tests, and see where we go from here. The parents don't have insurance. This will be paid out of pocket, so cost is a concern. We then click on the stop button, and it's going to take a couple moments here. And again, this will be sped up over time. We're going to be adding new servers for this, all kinds of things in the background to make this process better. The first step is the processing of the audio. And what that means is it's taking what we've said, and it's going to create a transcript. From the transcript, it's going to populate the document. So we're just going to wait a moment here while it does this. In the meantime, I do want to talk about the process, what's happening here. We gathered over the past probably about a month or so, we did gather a list of names of people that want to try this out to see how it's working, see if it's behaving, see if it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Can it be improved? Beginning next week, we're going to be reaching back out to those volunteers. Again, we have about 20 clinics and getting them updated and having them try out the application over the course of December, basically. And then in late December, early January, we're going to be making some changes accordingly and rolling this out to everybody, in essence, early in January. Once we're getting some decent feedback, unless we run into any major roadblocks, if people are running into things that they weren't expecting, like anything really major, then I don't see any reason why we're not rolling this thing out for people to try out into December. If there are some issues with it, then we have to deal with those issues. So that's the process. Again, anyone interested in the AI, let us know, and we'll certainly keep you on our list for when we're rolling it out. Now, the audio transcript is created, the document is populated. First of all, I can click on this icon and I can see the entire transcript. That is now stored with each document, with each daily note, just by clicking on that icon over here on the right-hand side. If I go into this document, let's say a week from now or a year from now, I can at any point in time click on that icon and see what was said. That way, if there's ever any discrepancy, and maybe it was an interview with a parent, you can go back in and see what was actually said. Now let's take a look at the document. In the actual document, you can see what's happened. It's actually filled in to the best of its knowledge, best of AI, what was said during that particular transcript, which is kind of cool. It's not perfect. You still have to go in and kind of look at this and change things, avoiding eye contact, separation, resistance to cuddling. It's filled in whatever it was smart enough to fill in. There is some repetition. Hospitalized in the last 12 months for a high fever due to a virus, taking antibiotics for infections. So it has done a pretty good job of filling in 3 times a week. Patients are concerned about out-of-pocket payment. It's done a pretty good job of filling in this document. This is kind of cool. I was kind of impressed by this myself, and it's going to get better. That's what AI is. Couple of things I do want to mention right off the bat with the AI, just checking my notes here, bear with me for a moment here. This is going to be a paid service. Why is it going to be a paid service? Because there are server costs with this. We have to pay an AI company for this based on words. So it's not like it's a freebie to us and we're charging you for it. We are basically incurring costs for this. We're paying this AI generator. We're paying for storage. We're paying for server space. We're looking at $20 a month per provider. We're trying to keep it as low as we can. However, we are going to be giving a 60-day free trial. If you want to try it out, see if it's saving you time before committing to it, we're fine with that. Now, again, it will all be rolled out within the next month or two. Again, we're hoping that's a fair amount. Yes, it's more money, but hopefully it'll save a whole lot of time. And it does cover our butts for the server time and for the AI generator as well. I think that's all I have to say at the moment. Again, we'll keep everybody up to date on the AI. I'm sure we have tons and tons of questions. I haven't looked at there's a couple of questions that did come in before the session. I'm going to get into those, and then we'll get to the online Q&As and see what's going on. And I may hand it back to Matt to moderate that. Okay, a couple of questions that came in no particular order. This is a question from an Ontario, Canada-based clinic, WSIB forms. There are new forms. When are they going to be released? We have them ready. We're going to be releasing them next weekend, actually. So the WSIB forms will be there. Will the AI help to fill out those forms? No, the AI is only going to be used for the forms built into Practice Perfect. They can't work with just any old document, like a Word document, for example, because we have no way to know in the Word document what a heading is. What's a heading? What's text? What's that sort of thing. So they won't be working with Word documents until the AI can somehow figure out what the headings are in the AI documents. Question came up about AI. Is it going to be used for more than just population of documents? Eventually, yes. This is our first foray into it. Hopefully, we'll get into billing and payments at some point as well. Again, this will be provider-based. You don't have to turn it on for everybody. You can do it just for particular providers. There will be a free trial period. What else came in here? Someone asked if a SOAP note can be done just by doing voice typing. That's dictation. That's not AI. You can use any number of dictation applications to do that right now. It's not really a Practice Perfect issue. A number of questions came in about how do I do this? How do I make an adjustment to an invoice? How do I do something with a HCFA form? How do I print statements? Anything related to like an individual case that doesn't have to do with what we've gone through today, contact support. We're not going to really talk about those today, about sort of individual usage questions. It's more about the facts that we've covered today. So let's take a look at the questions here and see what's going on. And Matt, if you want to chime in at all, by all means. I'm just going through our chat here to see what we have. The goal progression chart's amazing. That's great. There's a thank you. It works for both custom notes and progress notes. Okay, that's been answered by Carrie. That's great. It is $20 per provider per month. on the monthly bill. So Carrie did answer that as well. And again, to be perfectly candid, if we find out our costs are going down on it, then we're happy to re-examine that. But right now it's pricey. With the AI, the transcript is being saved to Practice Perfect server individually to each of our clinics. No, it's with your data. The transcript is being saved along with your notes, along with your scheduler, along with your financial stuff. We're storing the transcript directly in the system. Do we need to set up our custom docs to use the AI if we don't have a valve set up yet? Yes, you do need custom docs for the AI to work. Um, Keep in mind, we have a number of custom docs available already we can give you, and it does work with the daily notes. Does it work for the contact log? I'm guessing that's a question about AI. No, I'm not sure other than dictation how that would work with the contact log. Is there an option to lock soap notes? You don't need to lock soap notes. You can complete them and sign them. The format of soap notes isn't changing, so that whole locking thing wasn't an issue. But you can lock them and people can't change them. Carrie's answered a bunch of bring forwards. Unrelated to the webinar, when will we be able to send clinical notes directly from PP to lawyers without printing off and scanning? You can fax. We do have built-in faxing already. You can fax documents directly from Practice Perfect to a doctor's office without printing and scanning. If you want more information about the faxing, and it does a nice job, you get a cover sheet, you get a confirmation. Contact Matt at Practice Perfect EMR, MATT, Matt at practiceperfectemr.com about that. Yeah, fax through PP. Great. Okay. That's all I have for the questions. The questions are a little bit light. I'm curious if anybody will AI be able to suggest charges and possible diagnosis based on evaluation eventually. Yes, you can fax custom documents without switching to a PDF format. You can fax them right from the system. Let me show you faxing, actually, because we're getting a lot of questions about faxing. I can come right into, let's say, this particular document here. So here's a custom document, a speech language evaluation. Right from here, I can say I want to print it. I want it to go to Practice Perfect Fax, which we would have to turn on for you. It's going to my doctor. I'm going to put a comment in here. I want to create a contact log entry maybe. I hit fax. Off it goes in the background. No printing to a PDF. The fax gets sent to the doctor and it gets logged, and you get an email back confirming receipt by the doctor as well. Let me go back to I'm going to stop sharing my screen here for the moment. Any other questions, Matt? Do you have anything? Carrie, do you have anything to add?
No, pretty light on the questions today. So I think we just about covered it.
Okay. We'd love to get your feedback on the AI, just general feedback. If you think it's something that's worthwhile, was it kind of cool? Was it not as cool as we thought it was? There is a charge for faxing. Faxing is 5 cents per page outbound. You can't send multiple documents. Well, you can actually. You can send multiple like documents as a fax, I think. I don't recall actually.
As long as they're on the same page. So you can send multiple custom documents at the same time or multiple progress notes at the
Right,
same
right.
time.
So you can't do that. My mistake.
Multiple invoices, as long as they're the same type.
For any questions about faxing, just email Matt at MATT at practiceperfectemr.com. I want to say, and I don't know what are those emojis. I'm old. I don't know what these emojis mean, Matt. I'm not sure if you can see them.
I'll translate that for you. So it's a head exploding.
As long as it's not a headache.
No, I think it's like your mind is blown.
What we're going to do is we'll keep everybody posted. I mean, we're doing the testing in November. We do have our guinea pigs. They have signed up many months ago. We got to get them updated, and then we're going to be doing the trial. So there's no harm in trying it out. And if it's not doing what you'd like it to do, Allison, unfortunately, the trial's closed for now. We already had way too many people that signed up for the trial several months ago. But again, early January, mid-December, you'll be able to sign up, and do the sort of the free trial. And we'll be communicating with everybody about how that works. It'll be in the newsletter, and everybody who's had this seminar will get that information as well. So we will be screaming it from the rafters when the time comes as well. Follow-up question. I know this is a case-by-case basis, but roughly how much space is recommended for our systems? Oh, okay. So So good question. Question came up. If you're storing your own data, if we are not hosting your data for you and you are hosting your own data, the transcripts are being stored as text. Text is typically not take up a lot of room. So I don't have a great answer for you about how much storage space is required. But texting is not images like the text. It's just straight text. So I I don't think it's going to be a huge burden on storage. It's more it adds up. Obviously, we take many users and many documents. It adds up, but I don't have an answer for you on that to be perfectly honest. And yes, you do need to do the full update. Yeah, good answer, Matt. Before we do the AI, everything you've seen today, except the faxing, I think you need the update for. I think faxing is the only thing that we covered that was an older function, I believe. Okay. Any other questions? Again, you know where to get hold of us. Support at practiceperfectemr.com, Steve at practiceperfectemr.com, Carrie at practiceperfectemr.com. That's CARRIE. Matt, MATT at practiceperfectemr.com. We have two people who just entered the waiting room because they don't understand how time zones work. So they're going to be very disappointed in a few minutes. I'm not sure if we should let them in and and give them the bad news. But again, I want to thanks everybody for coming. Have a great weekend. To our American friends, have a great Thanksgiving next week. And we will hopefully speak to you all soon. Thanks again. We'll leave this open for a couple more minutes until 1 o'clock if anything else comes in. But again, don't be shy to email us and let us know what you think. You are all very, very welcome. Matt, what would you like to do with the two people in the waiting room?
I think we should just let them in and break the news.
All right, let's do that. Who wants to break the bad news?
Hello, thank you for joining. We're so sorry, but we're just reaching the end of our webinar. It actually started at 12 o'clock Eastern time, so sorry about that. We will be sending you a recording of the webinar afterwards. It's going to be a long email with a bunch of links. We're going to include a link to this. We're going to include a link to the tutorial videos, one about AI, one about the new document locking feature. We will also send a link to the PenPal AI waitlist. So although we have the folks for our first trial, we are still building this waitlist. So we'll be happy to reach out to you once we have the capacity.